Hello, kids. Fancy meeting you here. It is 7 minutes after 12 o'clock. My name is Matt Murphy, and conveniently, this is the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm pleased you've decided to join us today. Whatever time you're able to give us, we're appreciative of it, whether that's a couple of minutes or the full 3 hours. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Hopefully, we'll leave you with a smile on your face and maybe a little better informed as to what's going on around the world as we try to do every single day from noon until 3, Monday through Friday on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is Locks for Trump Day 221. I've been growing out my hair in anticipation of a new president-elect since March 1st of this year, and we'll get one less than a month, 27 days away from the culmination of a presidential election that is already ongoing. I'm looking up on monitor number 2, and I noticed that Cameron Smith, during his time here subbing in for Chris Hand, was watching a little Judge Judy. Good for him. All right. There's Ken Weaver back. Well, I mean, it's funny because I mentioned to somebody the other day, I don't understand Judge Judy. I don't begrudge her success. I mean, you know how much that woman's worth, Ken Weaver?
A whole bunch.
A lot of, like, millions and millions and gajillions of dollars.
Over 100 million.
Yeah, she's rich. She does not suffer fools.
No, she does not. Get out of her courtroom. I can't. Well, actually, I can't say that because I have watched exactly, whatever amount of time it was on monitor number 3 in here in the studio. That's how much I've watched of Judge Judy. I've never watched. Is it like People's Court, Ken?
No, it's a lot more entertaining because she calls the plaintiffs and the defendants idiots.
Well, I mean, there you go.
I mean, and the minute they start lying, she calls them out on it.
Shut them down.
Yeah, just shuts them right down. It's very entertaining at times.
Well, you know what? I might have to give it a go at some point over the course of who knows when.
If there's nothing else going on.
Nothing else going on?
Her ratings were so powerful at one point that when they went in to renegotiate her deal, the head of the network just said, tell me how much you want and you can have it.
I mean, yeah, I've seen where she's worth like, I think you said like over $100 million. I mean, she's worth a tremendous amount of money.
Yeah.
With that in mind, Belle, is she single? I mean, you may be, I don't know. I mean, I know you're single and ready to mingle. Right, Belle?
Okay. Sure. Whatever you say.
It's the voice of Ken Weaver back there in the newsroom. He's gathering headlines as we speak this afternoon. There's Bell K. We call him Headless Bell because he chooses not to participate on the television side of things. His choice, your loss, his gain, I guess. I don't know, warrants or something or another. But Bell does participate at least as much as he entitles the episodes. And considering that for the better part of the week, I have forgotten to give you the titles of the episodes, let's do that up front. Episode 668 of Our Time Together on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You can find it on the radio. You can find it streaming anywhere you stream news or information or music. You can find it on our own app, easy for me to say, and you can find it on Super Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, up and running. And episode 668 is entitled
More Warm Air Than Hurricane Milton and 3 Times as Loud. Matt Murphy Show. Take cover.
It's true. Was I crossing my arms? Sandra says I need to uncross my arms. I didn't know that I was crossing my arms.
I don't think I've ever seen you with your arms crossed.
Stop yelling.
Oh,
Stop yelling.
I need to uncross my arms and stop being so upset about things. Okay. We'll do our best.
No passion.
Right.
It's all milquetoast.
We're going to update everything you need to know about Hurricane, well, not everything, but a lot of what you need to know about Hurricane Helene and the aftermath of Helene and Milton, who is making landfall soon. Joe Biden apparently getting a briefing on the Category 4 hurricane as we speak. We'll continue to update you on all of that all afternoon long. I believe, Bell, just a side note for you, we'll be talking to Steve at 12:35 if he's able for 5 or so minutes, just to give us a Antle, just to give us a brief update on what's happening in North Carolina, which is obviously the most impacted and affected area. But I'm not diminishing what's going on in Newport, Tennessee. I'm not diminishing what's going on in Cocke County or any other place in East Tennessee. I'm just trying to focus on those areas that continue to need.
Audience got a lot done for Steve yesterday too, man.
Let me tell you what.
The audience really came through.
There was I don't know if that came to fruition. I mean, we had a trucking company that came out, Meisler, I want to say. We had shippers had already dedicated their extra fleet to other things. And so I want to thank William Shippers out in Lebanon, who's a listener to the show. I communicated with him yesterday afternoon and said, anything we can do for you. He said, anything I can do for you, et cetera, et cetera. But he had already dedicated shipping containers elsewhere. However, we got a guy, his name was Brad, I want to say.
Brent.
Brent. From Meisler Trucking, who has offered as many 53-footers as Steve needs, and I think they've been in communication, which is awesome. And I think there was a monetary donation in there, too. And I don't want to speak out of school, but it was pretty hefty.
Sometimes all you got to do is connect the dots.
Man, oh, man. So, and that's what we try to do, right? We try to provide you with maximum information because I know how wonderful a listening audience truly this is at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And you guys never cease to amaze me. You're wonderful people. You're giving and caring people. There's nothing in the world like living in the South, man. And look, I'm not taking anything away from Yankee folk who might be down here from other parts unknown or from folks out in California. I'm just telling you, the generosity of the Southeast. I haven't lived everywhere, man, but I've lived a lot of places, and there's nothing in the world like living in the Southeast of the United States of America. And I get on my knees and thank God on a daily basis. This is where I was born, and I expect that this is where I'll die. Anyway, so we'll continue to update you on everything you need to know about. In hour number 2, we have a special guest, Emily Evans, who is a part of the No Transit Tax organization. You know, next week, Belle, next Wednesday, as we speak, on this radio show, God willing, Mayor Freddie O'Connell will be here.
Now,
Excellent.
You get all hyper about that like it's out of the ordinary.
Well, that's true. He comes on the show from time to time.
Freddie's a regular guest. He's a segment buddy.
Weaver, get your questions ready for Freddie O'Connell.
All right, I'll change that to excellent.
I thought you said excellent.
Well, I said excellent.
And then Bell said, hey, calm down.
It's already happened, Ken.
Freddie has been on this station more in his first year than Cooper was in his entire term.
Well, I mean, I don't take any credit for that except to say that I'm not going to trash a guy just because he's a Democrat.
Right.
I will base my opinion on Freddie O'Connell and his performance as mayor, how he performs as mayor. That's what I'm going to base it on. And look, I don't know that he's done that bad of a job so far. I don't know that he's done that good of a job so far. But this transit tax thing, we're gonna get into the weeds on it today at 1 o'clock and next Wednesday, because Emily Evans is a part of a group that is absolutely against it. Obviously, Freddie was the architect of the proposal that Davidson County residents will be voting on in November, and you need to know as much as you can about it. So we'll present opposing sides and see where you fall on it. That's coming up today at 1 o'clock. And obviously no Cameron Smith because he was in for Chris Hand today, but Cam will probably be back next week. So there was an absolute – you know the only thing worse than Kamala Harris running for president from her basement, a la Joe Biden, is apparently Kamala Harris deciding to do interviews. We're getting a full-throated we're getting several very, very good examples as to why Kamala Harris has decided that she needs to speak as little as possible off the cuff. And the latest was just yesterday. On a couple of occasions, she did several interviews yesterday while, by the way, while a lot of the country continues to suffer. And this is where I want to start. So,
Can you raise your hand if you love a yellow school bus,
I know.
right?
I do. I do love a yellow school bus.
The sad thing is the question was, how much are taxes going up?
And she's like, yeah, right. I mean, right. So, Kamala Harris has simultaneously decided that she is the pass-through when it comes to anything and everything related to the hurricane, either Helene or now Milton. She did this by declaring that Governor Ron DeSantis was being selfish for not answering a telephone call that Ron DeSantis says never came. And she fudged on her answer on that later in the day yesterday. She initially was asked, hey, NBC News reported that Ron DeSantis wouldn't answer your telephone call. And she was like, well, he's being selfish and it's ridiculous. Ron DeSantis said, this woman has never called me. In 3.5 years, I've never received a telephone call. I've talked to Joe Biden. And then later on yesterday, Joe Biden applauded Ron DeSantis and his efforts to protect his citizens in the state of Florida against Hurricane Milton. So while Kamala Harris is trashing Ron DeSantis, the president of the United States, Joe Biden, is applauding him saying he's doing a good job and that he's had multiple conversations with him. Huh.
Well, in fairness, his staff did tell him that DeSantis was a Democrat.
Well, in what I would say, Bell, in all seriousness, jokes aside, the president of the United States occasionally lands on some truth. And it's fascinating to me that this woman, who doesn't seem to have an answer for really anything and doesn't seem to stand for anything, is demanding that we vote for her for president of the United States of America. I do believe that the hurricanes, as tragic as they are, illustrate the ineffectiveness of federal governments from being able to handle these types of situations that are best handled locally and through the state, that are best handled with neighbors helping neighbors. The only thing, as I said yesterday, that FEMA brings is a checkbook, and that checkbook is balanced against the future of the United States of America. They write checks and borrow money against writing those checks, and that's fine in the immediate term, and I understand it makes people whole, but understand the consequences of cashing that check. You're adding additional money of already trillions of dollars of federal debt. You're adding additional money to that federal debt. And you're ultimately, it might not impact me. I'm 51 years old. It might not impact Ken Weaver. It might not impact Bell K. It might not impact you. It might not even impact your kids. But we will pay a price, and that price will be against the future of the United States of America, because we're never paying that money back, ever. Every dollar, if you understand anything, understand this. Every dollar that we add to the national debt, that is time that we are losing for the United States of America to exist. That's all it is. This country will crumble under its own weight, and someone will take it over and reformulate it as an authoritarian dictatorship at some point down the road. And they'll do so in part because of the financial collapse of the United States of America. Now, I'm not here to preach doom and gloom. That is just what is going to happen. Every dollar you add, the only thing we can hope is that we get enough financial responsibility, physical responsibility, to stop adding money to the debt. That's the only thing we can hope, because we're never paying it back, ever. There's no benefit to paying it back. No one elected in political service is going to say, hey, I know you guys need money for this project or that project. I know you need money for this thing or that thing. I know you need additional funding for FEMA or whatever, but we really need to put this $1 billion back and save it to pay the national debt off. Nobody is ever saying that, ever. And no American would vote for it, sadly. So that's what FEMA brings to the party. What Kamala brings to the party is trying to have it both ways. So Kamala Harris declared Ron DeSantis as selfish for not calling her back, for playing, quote, political games. Ron DeSantis said she never called. She's never talked to her. He's never talked to her, and she's never called his phone. That Joe Biden has his phone number. Every other people in the administration has his phone number. The FEMA director has his phone number, and that she's never called him. When asked again about it, and I've got the clip, when asked again about it, she fudged and said, I've called plenty of Republicans, and I've talked to plenty of governors. This is not a partisan issue. Well, ma'am, you're not answering the question. Did you call Ron DeSantis or not? She didn't, by the way. Of course she didn't. And while she's accusing Ron DeSantis, who is in the epicenter of a Category 4 hurricane, who is in the midst of it, who is there attempting to do the good work to try to protect his citizens, while she's accusing him of being selfish, what is Kamala Harris doing? She's on Stephen Colbert and Howard Stern, yucking it up, having a great old time. Does anyone else think it's unseemly that we have people in North Carolina and potentially even in East Tennessee? I've not seen the figures over there, but I know that there are people in the hundreds that are still missing in North Carolina. There are millions upon millions of people who have been removed from their homes, who are on the run in Florida right now, attempting to extract themselves. I mean, how many millions of people have been impacted by these two storms? And I'm not suggesting that Kamala Harris cannot continue to campaign on some level. But on the Stephen Colbert Show, a comedy show, on Howard Stern's show, Howard Stern is no longer a relevant figure in American entertainment, in my opinion. And what made him a relevant figure in American entertainment would make your mama blush. Howard Stern earned millions and millions of dollars throwing slices of bologna at women's butts. That's the truth. And Kamala Harris sits down with him for a serious one-on-one interview. Are you kidding me? So we'll get into that. We'll talk to our good friend Steve Antle about what's going down in North Carolina as well. Take your telephone calls and your membersnutrition.com super texts at 615-737-9986. 27 days to go, episode 668 in progress, 23 after the hour on Super Talk. For the month of October, our friends at Craft Body Scan are offering an incredible deal, friends. They're celebrating 7 years of helping people take control of their health. Now, they've not been in Nashville for that full amount of time, only about 2 years, but they've been around since 2017. And to celebrate that anniversary, they're giving you the gift. They're not receiving gifts. They're giving you the gift, a $700 off their full body scans. An amazing opportunity to go ahead and take care of your body scan right now. Now, I've done a full body scan. I absolutely love this idea. They go inside of your body. It's non-invasive now. They don't physically go inside of your body. They scan your body through CT scan technology. And these scans are amazing. They can check areas like your chest, your pelvis, your stomach area. They can check out, of course, your heart and your lungs, bone density, and so much more. Your health is worth seeing clearly, guys and gals. Let me tell you, there's no better time to do it than right now as they celebrate the 7-year anniversary of Craft Body Scan with a $700 off this life-changing scan. Don't wait. Your health deserves that you get scanned to make sure that everything is A-OK inside of your body. Book today at craftbodyscan.com, craftbodyscan.com, or call 615-436-1000, 615-436-1000.
Final warnings to Floridians ahead of Hurricane Milton landfall. This story and more at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. 1228 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I was looking at, these straps, these big old straps that you can buy at Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever. I was looking at somebody that took these huge jack straps and they pounded stakes in the ground on either side of their home, and they jackstrapped the roof of their home down. I'm not making this. I'll tell you what, if you're following me on social media.
Interesting.
I don't think it's going to work, but
there's not a chance in hell of that working.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They got 6 of them strapped across the roof of their house from one side of the house to the other, and they've got spikes. I don't know how deep into the ground. I think you would have to go pretty deep. And they've attached the straps to, and then they've ratcheted the straps. Will that work, Mel?
It's a hurricane, people. It's a hurricane.
It'll help. Because you got to keep the wind from getting up under the roof.
All it's going to do is cause other parts of the house to fail first.
I feel like all that's going to cause are jack straps crashing into the neighbor's house.
You can watch them fly off into the surf.
Well, hopefully, in all seriousness, y'all need to, if you have family or friends or anyone in the path of this storm, it's a pretty serious deal. Category 4. The expectation is the possibility is that it could move down to a Category 3, but don't let that affect the severity.
That's still a pretty strong hurricane.
Very strong hurricane.
Oh, yeah. And the surge is still going to be catastrophic.
Don't jackstrap your house down. Get the hell out.
Yeah. That's
a good idea.
That's great advice, Belkay. Great advice. Ken, have you seen or Bell, have y'all seen the graphic? The ability for us to illustrate graphically what we're talking about is pretty amazing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know who it was.
Talking about the path?
It's a weather reporter who's standing on a street, and then they graphically say, okay, 3 foot of storm surge, and then you see the water come up to her knees.
Yeah.
And then she goes, all right, well, but what they're not anticipating, and she's like in the Tampa, St. Pete area, and she's like, they're not anticipating 3 feet. They're anticipating much more than that. And then it goes up to her eye level. And she said 6 feet is like this. But what they're actually anticipating here, and then it goes up to the 12 feet that they're anticipating. She said they expect on this city street 12 feet of water.
Mm-hmm. Jack straps are not going to help you when you're underwater.
That is correct. It won't help you or your house for that matter. So very dangerous situation. We'll continue to cover it for you. I don't believe Steve Antle will be here at 12:35. He is in an area, he just texted me, said he's in an area where he cannot get cell service. So we'll suspend that and maybe later on today or maybe tomorrow. 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. Hurricane Milton continues to gain strength as it approaches the Florida coastline. Landfall expected between 9 and 11 tonight. Florida officials issuing their final warnings that the time to leave is now before it's too late. Outside Tampa, Mayor Jane Castor says no matter where the storm lands, it's going to have a major impact on their area.
What we're looking at is a storm of the century. It goes a bit north. That is the worst case scenario. It goes a bit south. That's the best case scenario, but it's not good.
She has told people who are going to try to ride it out that you are, quote, in a coffin. The federal government is launching a new Reddit account aimed at combating what it says is disinformation surrounding aid to those impacted by Hurricane Helene. The feds say claims by former President Trump and his running mate J.D. Vance saying that FEMA funds are scarce and only go to $750 and that they are being redirected to help migrants are false. They plan to say that on Reddit. 5 people are dead after a plane crashed just after taking off from an airport on Catalina Island off the coast of Los Angeles. Alex Stones in L.A. tells us technology automatically alerted rescuers to the crash.
Around Southern California, there have been a number of rescues recently where somebody's phone, often an iPhone, automatically calls for help after a car crash. In this case, it was a plane crash. The L.A. County Sheriff's Department got a call automatically made by somebody's phone on board the small twin-engine plane, alerting they had been in a crash and the GPS coordinates. When deputies arrived, they found the plane had gone down and all 5 on board were dead. The FAA and NTSB will investigate.
That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
All right, back at it. We'll get to Kamala Harris and her flubs from yesterday coming up in just a moment. 12:38. We continue to monitor two weather systems. Obviously, Hurricane Milton is descending on the coast of Florida. We're monitoring that situation, and the recovery continues regarding Hurricane Helene and the aftermath there. Still finding individuals in the muck and the mire. Sadly, we're still finding deceased people. We're still attempting to find what best path there is to help individuals. And toward that end, we have been speaking over the last several days with our man on the scene, Steve Antle, who is a resident of Fairview, North Carolina. He was a police officer with the Metro Nashville Police Department for the better part of 20 years. I think that's about right. And he joins us back now on the Murphy Show hotline. Did not think we would be able to talk with him. He was in a bad cell service, but I think he got in a better cell service, obviously. Steve, good afternoon. I hope you're well. Hey, Steve, you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I like your plaid shirt.
Oh, boy. Yeah, you got power. You watching some Super Talk TV there, buddy.
Yeah, I'm sitting in the same spot as usual, below the cell tower. So just real quick, I texted you earlier today about I'm working on getting heaters because temperatures are already dropping down below 40 degrees here at night. So anybody that's got a line on kerosene heaters, I'm also using, dropped about $1,000 of donation money today on some. I made a deal with Lowe's. And the guy said, well, if you buy 5, I'll donate 5. And he did the same thing with kerosene tanks.
Oh, heck yeah.
Hold the fuel.
Good for him.
So,
good for that Lowe's.
So I told him to go ahead and run that. And the kerosene cost almost as much as the heaters. It was $6.19 a gallon. And so 10 jugs, 5 gallons each, it came up to $300. So, yeah, I need more funds. So I'm working on that. I'm working through Samaritan's Purse. I finally got a number that I can contact them direct, so we're asking for more generators to be airdropped to our other location out there at Nesbitt's Chapel, and we're asking for an airdrop of more kerosene heaters, but I don't know how long that process is going to take. The problem I had yesterday was storage. Man, that phone call yesterday solved the problem. I got a guy named Brent Long with Meisler Trucking somewhere in Middle Tennessee, and the guy's like, I'll get you whatever you need. He's got 2 trucks rolling, and then he's going to have more for me. So we're planning out where we want to station them. I've already got, of course, 2 sites, our church and then Spring Mountain Baptist. We're going to put one there. And I got my daughter Megan riding with me today. She's a nurse.
Hey, Megan.
She's riding along.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
We're all right.
All right.
So we made a trip out to another location where they're going to set up another satellite place that's past Nesbitt's Chapel, and I wanted to make sure we could get a truck in there. So now we're back headed toward town to do all of our pickups, and then I'll do all of my deliveries back later this evening.
What is the you mentioned the fear of temperatures dropping to the point where folks start getting pretty cold. I mean, what are we talking about over the next couple of days, Steve? Do you know specifically, or are you just concerned about this weekend and the coming weeks?
I haven't looked at the long-term forecast, but usually about this time of year, temperatures start dropping down around freezing at night. So, October is where we start getting – our temperatures run 10 to 15 degrees colder than everybody else because of our elevation. We're looking at – are those the lows or the highs?
Yeah, 45.
Yeah, we're looking at low 40s right now. But it's going to get colder as time goes on. And by the time it takes us to get heaters to people, we want them to have them already, ready to go when they need them. I also need some of these little, they call them buddy heaters. They're about $60 or so retail, and they run off those little camp propane stoves.
Oh yeah, I know those.
Buddy heaters. I could use money and or those. Once the trucks get here, once the trailers get here, we can start, moving more donations. But the other thing is, and I definitely want to mention this, my guy Roger Clark, my balloonist down in Greenville, South Carolina, an hour south of here, he contacted me today, and he's got almost 2,000 square foot of warehouse space that's going to be donated. So he is going to start staging all his supplies there. And so that will almost immediately alleviate the glut problem with, having space to put stuff. So it gives us more flexibility, gives us more storage here in the mountains, and it gives us more storage down there so that we don't have to turn people away on donations.
Steve, we're getting at, well, yeah, you can do anything you want, but I have a quick question. I don't know if you know the answer to it. It is so difficult to, go through all of the information that you receive and figure out what's fact and what's fiction. One of the reasons that I value this relationship is because you're on the ground, you're seeing immediate need, and we can get people to the immediate need. That's what I want. I don't want to filter it through anybody else, but yesterday I got a call from someone who said that they were in Burnsville, and I know that's probably, 70 miles away from you or something like that? Burnsville, North Carolina?
At least, yes.
We're getting a lot of reports of a lot of dead people up there. Are you guys hearing anything about that?
I haven't, but I'm not surprised because it's real remote too, and they're in a different set of valleys that are on the other side of Mount Mitchell from us. So the really super tall mountains, the highest east of the Mississippi, they lie east of Asheville, and we're south of those, and they're north of those. So they have a whole network of valleys that feed out toward like eastern North Carolina and Virginia. And I'm sure I wouldn't discount those reports, but, I'm kind of isolated to where I'm at here.
No, I get it. I get that. What were you about to say? You were about to read something to me?
No, I just want to remind people of my Venmo because that seems to help. It's at Steve-Antle, A-N-T-L-E. That's at Steve, S-T-E-V-E, Antle, A-N-T-L-E. And it's a picture of me with the ocean behind me. And what else? Anything else you can think of? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say something, Steve, and I just want you to speak. You and I have never met. But I felt it on my heart to keep this connection going because I heard in your voice your extreme desire to do good things for good people. And I've had several people, and I'm not trying to make these people the focus of any of my attention, but I have several people asking me this question. Well, how do you know that you can trust Steve? How do you know that you can trust this Steve Antle guy? And my answer has been this, Steve, and I'm just going to say this to you. While I've never met him, I have learned to follow your heart and to have faith in human beings that demonstrate their worthiness to have faith in them. And I have faith in you. And I just wanted to address that for those that are saying, well, how do you know that this is – I don't know with 100% certainty, but I have faith that this guy on the other end of the line, and I just want to say this in front of him, is doing God's work in the midst of such extreme circumstances. Steve could be in Nashville right now. Steve could be any number of places right now. He chooses to be in the epicenter where this storm hit trying to help people. So I just want to thank you for that, Steve.
I appreciate it. I mean, I've had people tell me all the time I need to write a book about my life because people – You only know like a small, tiny fraction of what I've been through in my life, and my daughter's sitting over here laughing because she knows the whole story. I know you mentioned earlier about you saw on my Facebook that I'm an addiction survivor, and so I had a real bad problems with addiction years ago, and I went through a drug court. I also helped create a drug court down in Columbia, Murray County. The district attorney general down there, Brent Cooper, and the circuit court judge, David Allen, down there, they know me very well. They know who I am. The community down there knows me. People that are listening to this radio and that know my name, they know who I am. I mean, I'm not by any means a stranger.
Well, no, and I have faith that you and I will get to meet one day, and I'll get to shake your hand and hug your neck for the good work that you're doing for the people in that community and the surrounding communities and providing people with a little bit of hope. What is the mood right now?
We're just kind of settling in. I think people are a little more optimistic now that, the fear is over about not having stuff. Now it's just people are just like really putting their nose to the grindstone, and we're just trying to get it done on a daily basis. We're trying to get stuff to where it needs to be, and it's just a matter of doing it. It's become a routine for us now, wouldn't you say?
I think it's just a new normal for everyone.
Yeah, this is our new normal.
And I would like to speak on behalf of my dad. This community is a community that it's the only thing I've ever known my entire life. I've never lived anywhere else. And to see him keeping the roads hot, doing deliveries, rallying support, it just really means the world.
I keep telling her half the battle in stuff like this is public relations. Because if you can't get the word out and you can't get the right people to help you when you need it, then, if you don't have anything to work with, you don't have anything to do. So you just try to, I don't know. I used to do a lot of public speaking, done a lot of public speaking about addiction. I've gone many, many places to tell my story. I went a couple of years ago, or 2018, I went to the National Association of Drug Court Professionals convention in Houston and got to speak to people down there. So I'm used to doing this. And I used to train people. I was a training officer. So, I just figured I picked you, Matt, because I've listened to your show since you came here. I've followed WTN for years, yeah. I did used to listen to your competitor when Rush was on the other channel.
Hey, Steve, we did too. Everybody.
but I will tell you this. So
everybody.
Okay, so technically he's not named after him. That's not how it came about. But my grandson's name is Rush.
Yeah.
And
is that
my daughter told me
Megan?
that,
is that Megan's son?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
My grandson's 3. His name is Rush.
Hey, Megan, are you having any other kids?
No.
Okay, because Murphy.
No, but I would maybe consider Matt.
Well, I was thinking Murphy. Murphy's a pretty good name. If not for a child, maybe for a golden retriever, a good dog.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, look.
Anyway,
let me get focused on this, Steve, because I only have a minute or two left. So, we're talking space heaters. We're talking kerosene-based heaters. We're talking things that would provide some comfort for folks as the temperatures begin to drop. Obviously, it's the middle of October now. And then Steve Antle, and you spell that Antle?
Correct.
On Venmo, and obviously if you can't give to Steve, just give to a charity of your choosing. Samaritan's Purse is a great organization.
If they don't want to give to me, give to Samaritan's Purse, because I tell you what, they're doing great things.
Yeah.
And another thing, I am documenting every day. I'm documenting what I'm doing on Facebook. So if people want to know what their money's going to, almost literally the same day, if they just follow my post, they're going to see all of us on there, and they're going to see what the expenditures are and what is going on. So, that's kind of just another way for people to say, and I'm maxed out on friends now, thanks to you. But they can do the follow thing, and there's 400 or 500 of them. So just, that's another way of, what do you call it? Accountability.
Megan, where, Steve mentioned you're a nurse?
Yes, I'm a school nurse in Henderson County. I work part-time now that my son is here. I stay home the other part of the time with him.
Okay. Well, God bless you for helping out your dad and everything that you guys are going through. Steve, continue to call us and give us updates, and we appreciate everything that you're doing, my friend.
You got it. Thank you,
man.
Matt. I appreciate you and your audience.
Yes, sir. There's Steve Antle. Look, I understand. I don't begrudge people questioning, hey, how do you know this guy? And I understand that he has a past with the Nashville Police Department, and I've been made fully aware of that several days ago. And Steve and I have spoken offline about that, and I just wanted to publicly throw it out there. I believe this man's doing God's work right now. And I'm going to help him any way that I can. It's 53 after the hour. You know, obviously, in times of crisis, we think about folks who have lost everything. If you want to protect your valuables against the threat of fire, if you want to protect your valuables against the threat of theft or other issues that might come up in your home, I recommend a Nashville Safe House. They're great at what they do. They're the best, not just in the Southeast, but frankly, I've never seen better in the United States of America. Nashville Safe House is tip-top, friends. They've got a safe brand for every budget. They've got a name for every budget. And they've got a style for every taste. So if you're looking for Browning or Fort Knox or Champion or Superior or Rhino, they've got them all, plus many, many more brands at Nashville Safe House. It's what they do. They do safes, they do vault doors, they do biometric safes, they do tornado shelters, and that's it. That's what Mark does at the Safe House. So I encourage you to go by and see it for yourself. Now, if you want to go online, NashvilleSafeHouse.com, that's a great way to introduce yourself to some of the styles and sizes that they have, and then go see them for yourself. They have it in stock. And when I say it, I mean the safe that you want. They have it in stock. You don't have to worry about waiting for delivery to the Safe House and then third-party delivery to your home. They'll have one of their crew take it out to your house and get it set up for you with Nashville Safe House. Go to NashvilleSafeHouse.com or 4th Avenue South in Nashville.
1 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. And 21st Avenue South on the West End is still shut down for a crash investigation. This is going to be right between Woodland Drive, that's Woodlawn Drive, and Sweetbriar Avenue. Got the full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Milton is barreling towards the western Florida coastline. Currently is a Cat 4 storm. It's expected to make landfall later tonight at the earliest. Officials urging people in and around Tampa to evacuate immediately if they are in low-lying areas. Tornado watches and warnings have already popped up in the affected areas. Virtually the entire state preparing for the storm. And federal personnel are already there to help with recovery efforts, according to President Biden.
For the last week, my team has done everything possible to prepare for this storm. I immediately approved emergency declarations in Florida and the Seminole Tribe in Florida. I also surged search and rescue teams, water, food, power generators, ambulances to the region.
Yeah, Milton is churning up tornadoes ahead of landfall due in parts of Florida. I'm seeing as many as 10 touchdowns so far today. Well, you may have seen the videos of a Black Hawk helicopter flying low over a Hurricane Helene donation and supply area. It's called rotor washing, and it happened in Burnsville, North Carolina, Sunday. As the chopper hovered over the site, tents were blown over, donations were scattered. Now the National Guard says a Black Hawk helicopter crew has been grounded. The crew claimed it was trying to land to deliver some generators, but couldn't find a spot and eventually aborted the landing. The Guard is investigating. President Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke today for the first time in weeks. This as Israel continues to bombard neighborhoods in Gaza and continues its offensive in Lebanon. Netanyahu also gave an address to the Lebanese people, urging them to reject Hezbollah. Patrick Reevell in Beirut says people are on edge.
Here in Lebanon, it's being interpreted basically as a threat. Netanyahu said if they want to save the country from falling into the abyss of a long war and facing similar destruction to Gaza, then they should take this opportunity now to overthrow Hezbollah. And they believe that, they see that as essentially an ultimatum.
The U.S. Justice Department may be seeking to take Google apart. Here's Stephen Portnoy.
Having won the first round in court with a federal judge ruling that Google is a monopoly, the Justice Department now signals it intends to force a court-ordered breakup of the company, possibly affecting Google's Chrome web browser and its Android operating system. The company responds, saying such a plan could have unintended consequences for consumers, risking their security and privacy, especially if Google is forced by the court to share user search data with competitors.
That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
So you hear the guy mention, the weather guy mention the cooler air that's coming. That means that you might be using that heater before you know it. If you've not used it already, I've been admonishing you that it's time to call Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. for a simple reason. Like, I mean, you go to the dentist to get your teeth cleaned and to make sure nothing's going on. You go to the oil change place to get your oil changed and to make sure nothing's going on with your vehicle. You need to do the same thing with your heater just once a year. And Jeff Eddy makes it so inexpensive, $125 or less. Here's his commitment. You'll never get charged more than $125 for a residential maintenance call for your heater at Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling. Secondarily, oftentimes it's much less than that, depending on time, distance, and the amount of heating units that you have. Thirdly, it is just so important. I mean, we all know that smell that we smell when we turn on the heater for the first time. That's dust and dander and nastiness burning off the coils. You don't want that coming out of your vents. You don't want that going into the nostrils of your family. You need to get this stuff cleaned through Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Call today at 615-784-4424, 784-4424, or go to efficienthvac.net. Yes, indeed. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hour number 2 starts right now, 107. Thank you for being out there. We will circle back around to North Carolina, East Tennessee, and the rest of the affected areas due to Hurricane Helene coming up in about 30 minutes or so. We'll take your telephone calls at that time on that subject, 615-737-9986. We'll also remind you as to where we are regarding South Florida, middle of the state of Florida, and Hurricane Milton. The storm surge, it's being reported, has started. Wind speeds are, just in the 30 mile an hour zone right now, but it's still, obviously well off the coast. It's expected to make landfall if my memory is serving me correctly. I think it's expected to make landfall sometime just after midnight tonight. Obviously, our thoughts and our prayers are with the people that have been impacted by that storm and are being impacted by that storm. But we're going to turn our attention for at least the next 30 minutes or so to the city of Nashville and Davidson County at large. We had Ben Cunningham on the show a week or so ago discussing this transit tax, which, frankly, I've not been able to generate a lot of discussion about, but I do want to generate discussion about it because I think the people of Davidson County need to know what they're expected to vote on come November 5th. Next Wednesday at 12:30, Freddie O'Connell, the mayor of Nashville, will be on, and I expect that, amongst other things, a topic of conversation will be this concept of the transit tax. Toward that end, we have invited Emily Evans on the show with us. She is one of the organizers of the NoTransitTax.com website and the Stop the Transit Tax effort, and she joins us in studio to talk about that effort. Hello, Emily. How are you?
Hello, Matt. Thanks for having me.
You're doing a great job. Belle came in right before we did the segment and said, "Emily can't move. You're not allowed to.
I'm afraid to. I'm afraid that.
Belle will get on you if you do.
So shock thing.
No, she's fine. I'll get on you. She knows.
Okay.
So thank you for stopping by. Thank you for being in, and thank you for drawing attention to this issue. Tell me a little about your background and why you felt compelled to be a part of this organization.
Okay. My background is I served on the Metro Council for 9 years, beginning in 2006 until 2015. Prior to that, I worked in municipal finance, so I'm a finance professional. My history on the Metro Council is mostly focused on budget and fiscal issues, tax issues. And I have been off the bench, really, since 2015, working on my career and livelihood. But with this proposal, the sales tax proposal, it was kind of the stick or the straw that broke the camel's back, because I've been watching really for the last 13 years a series of policies that are beneficial to a small group of people and detrimental to the vast majority of the city. That starts with the convention center downtown, which mostly sits empty and overtaxes the hospitality industry. That goes to the property tax increase, which was a 34% increase in 2020. We closed schools, which is half our budget, for a year and a half. Shows you how committed we were to that function of government. And then we're now facing a sales tax increase, a 22% increase in the local option, and probably facing another property tax increase next year. And you can only tax the population so much, and they start doing, you look at the gold standard of governance, that's migration. And when you see migration, you need to check it. And our population has flatlined in 2016. We lost population 2020 through 2021. We've not recovered it, and that's not a good sign.
So I hear, Emily, I've been in Nashville since December of 2021.
Okay.
And I hear regularly, I see stories regularly about people that are flocking to the greater Nashville area. They're flocking to Middle Tennessee. Nashville, I mean, the story I've heard, and maybe it's wrong, is that Nashville gains almost 100 people a day in population.
The important word there is greater Nashville. The jurisdiction of Nashville and Davidson County, it's 530 square miles, has lost population. Now, the region has gained population, and a lot of that has to do with lower taxes. The property tax in Davidson County, for example, what the average person pays is about twice what Williamson County pays, which is that's a different sort of pattern than we've had previously.
So if you subtract Sumner and Wilson and Williamson, et cetera, then you'll get to that
you'll get to that
net
number.
decrease.
Yeah, but we year over year, 2021, we lost 1.8% of our population.
It just occurs to me, and it's kind of an offshoot from the subject that we're talking about, but if you served in, you said 09 to 15?
06 to 15.
06 to 15. So you were in the thick of the Music City Center debate, right?
Yes, I was one of 9 votes against it and led the opposition against it.
And now I would expect that. I mean, were you and Freddie on the opposite sides of that?
At the time, Freddie was not in the council.
He was not. Okay.
He had a local radio program on the Vanderbilt radio station. And at the time, I thought was very sort of biased against it. Yeah.
Okay.
But that was a long time ago.
What do you think has changed in his mindset, or maybe nothing has changed? I mean, what do you think goes into the mindset of this 0.25% sales tax increase for the purpose of, and I can't really get my arms around exactly what we're getting out of our money, except it's just a sales tax increase?
You're not alone. The sales tax, here's what you're getting. You're getting a 0.5 cent increase in the local option sales tax. You're getting that. Now, the question is, what are you getting for that? Okay. And the answer is you don't know. The administration has said, well, we'll have sidewalks, but they're only going to really relate to transit, and we're going to build 84 miles of sidewalks. That's about 5 miles a year. That's the same as what we're doing right now without a sales tax increase. You might get better signalization. We bought the software for that in 2012. We've had some expertise issues. We've had some hardware issues, but we started down that road a while ago. Okay. Then the last piece of it is, do you get bus service? The buses serve less than 2% of the population. Less than 10,000 people rely on it to get to work every day. And so
say that again, Emily.
About about less than 2% of the Nashville population uses the Metro bus.
That equates to, you said 10,000 people?
Of that amount, less than 10,000 people rely on it for work, to get to work.
I've long said, I understand the necessity for larger cities to have some form of mass transit. I get it. And would you agree with that?
I would agree with it. I would just add that it's, when you're looking at cities that developed in the mid to late 20th century, a period of prosperity unknown in human history, it's easy to see why it didn't happen, because massive transit is an economic decision.
Well, that leads me to my broader point that while I understand why you would want to serve the least of these within a broader community, nobody takes the bus because they want to.
Yeah, I was down in
nobody
takes
the bus because they want to.
I was at a meeting in Antioch, and I was talking to this woman, and she's asking me questions, and I said, "Well, tell me, do you take the bus?" And she says, "No." And I said, "Okay, why don't you take the bus?" And she said, "Because I don't have to."
That's exactly right.
So that's a man on the street. Taking mass transit economic decision, and I think forcing people into fixed routes. Okay, that's what bus lines are: fixed routes on a fixed timetable. Really means that people who depend on it are going to have to find work on that bus line. They're not going to look for the best job for them. They're going to look for the job on the bus line, which is, categorically unjust in my opinion.
So just trying to dive a little bit deeper. And so we're talking, the suggestion is that we'll get additional sidewalks, sidewalks that are already being built.
Correct.
We'll get bike lanes that I feel like already exist. And we will get additional or better bus service.
That is about correct, yes.
And that's going to be $6.9 billion
over 15 years,
yeah. Is it just as easy as suggesting that they're trying to sell an additional sales tax to the people of Davidson County, and they're doing it through this transit proposal because they think that's the best way to do it?
That's the conclusion you have to draw, is this is really a request for $150 million annually from the taxpayers through a highly regressive tax. Sales taxes are not what you want to use unless you absolutely have to. And that $150 million can, augment the public works budget. And that means that, you can use that money for even something else. So it's a tax increase.
And can we use the figure, and I know when I was speaking with Ben Cunningham on this issue, we were using the figure $6.9 billion, but they won't give you that figure, right?
No.
The proponents of the proposal are very squishy about what the total cost of the actual projects that they're proposing will be.
Yeah, when you buy a car or a house, there's this truth in lending number. It's at the bottom of the page, and it adds up all the payments you make, including interest. The truth in lending number for this project is $6.9 billion. That includes the principal. That includes the interest.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me the and I don't want to cast aspersions. He'll be here next week. He can defend himself. But Freddie O'Connell, he's the guy that's trying to figure out what I'm able to pay every month, right? If we use that car analogy, when you go in a car lot, they're like, well, what are you looking to spend a month?
Right.
I'm like, no. Tell me what the car costs. No. Well, what are you looking to spend? Right? It's the difference.
That's a good way to look at it. And Mayor O'Connell, when someone asked, why don't you tell people it's $6.9 billion? He said, well, we want to keep it simple. And I'm like, well, we're not stupid. You can figure these things out.
If this is specific, if this tax increase is specific to these projects, Emily, then obviously it has an expiration, right? It has a sunset, right?
Well, it has the tax will be in place as long as the bonds are outstanding. I spent a very long time in municipal finance, and I can tell you there are many ways to keep the bonds from being retired through extensions, refinancings, new issuance, et cetera. So you don't really know when the tax will go away.
The only way that government, if it initiates tax, it's been my experience in my lifetime of doing this, the only way that government does that is through fear of loss of power and control or fear of absolute revolt based on the population's reaction to it. In other words, you have to fight like hell to get these taxes gone once they are in place.
That's been my experience as well.
Well, if anybody wants to call on this, and I've obviously got a couple of them lining up, we're talking with Emily Evans. Is it notransittax.com? Is that right?
Notransittax.com is the website. You can get make a donation, and you can order a yard sign there.
Well, we'll be back with a few of your questions in just a moment with Emily on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Yeah. I got a quick live to do. Got to make some money.
Okay.
If you joined us during our event at Hop Springs in Murfreesboro, you probably met Holly and David with Savory Spice. I've been talking about them a while, and they brought a lot of goodies. They were giving away a lot of the Spice and Easy line of products from Savory Spice. Holly wants you to know that they've got any and all of your fall baking or holiday needs right there in stock right now at Savory Spice. I mean, believe it or not, and last time I was there about a week ago, I stopped in the Franklin location right off of the square in Franklin next to Gray's Pharmacy. And I was like, Holly, you got pumpkin pie spice out here. You've got, you got the nutmeg. You got all of these, the cinnamon and all. And I was like, what are you doing? And then she said, Matt, it's October. I was like, oh, I guess that makes a lot of sense, huh? So it is October, and for those of you planning ahead, get over to Savory Spice. They simply up your spice game, and in order to up your food game, you need to up the spice game. Don't buy off the rack at the local grocery or the discount store. Go to the best. Go to Savory Spice. 2 locations. One I mentioned in Franklin, just off the square, next to Gray's Pharmacy. The other is in L&L Market on Charlotte Pike in Nashville. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the one and only Savory Spice. Well, it is good to get to know you.
Well, thank you.
This is very intriguing. I would be really curious to have you back and to give me kind of a to kind of table set where we were in Nashville back in the time when you were on that.
Yeah.
So how things have changed.
Yeah.
And what you think about the city. I talk to a lot of people. I mean, from an outsider's perspective, in Nashville, it's an it city. It's great. It's popping. It's happening.
All right, still got 21st Avenue closed for a crash investigation on Nashville's West End. This is going to be between Woodlawn Drive and Sweetbriar Avenue. We've got the very latest on Hurricane Milton heading toward Florida. Let you hear what it sounds like there in Fort Myers coming up at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you, Ken Weaver. Our guest is Emily Evans. She's with NoTransitTax.com, an organization that has mounted a defense against the idea of increasing our sales tax. I mean, what? I think I said it wrong. I said it was 0.25. Did you say it was a half a?
It's a half a penny. So you go from 2 1/4 local option sales tax to 2 3/4.
Okay, so it's half.
So the total rate would be 9 3/4. Yeah.
All right, very good. We've got a number of folks that want to ask you questions, Emily, and she is our expert on this subject. Tony is in Nashville with a thought on the transit tax. Tony, what's on your mind?
Yes, when you talked about the mass transit and the sidewalks, they was double dipping. Is because property taxes are supposed to be taking care of sidewalks. But when we go out and build a house, they made us build sidewalks in front of that frontage of the house, in which the property taxes are supposed to be taken care of. So quite naturally, that cost wasn't going to be with the contractor. That was going to be turned over to put on the owner. And as far as the mass transit is concerned, the problem that I had with mass transit is that in the city that I've been in, none of these things let off in the neighborhoods close to your house. At least bus lines, they distribute people and pick up people in neighborhoods, but that don't happen with them. Now, once I think the Court of Appeals overturned the sidewalk thing is because not only was people paying high property taxes, they was also paying to have the sidewalks built twice. I get off and listen.
Tony, thank you for the call. Any thoughts on that, Emily? Sidewalk.
Well, he's right.
Yeah.
You pay property taxes. That's supposed to deliver sidewalks. We asked developers, he's referring to a home build, but we asked developers to put sidewalks in front of their property or to pay into a sidewalk fund. So we've already really taken care of this, and it's being dangled in this proposal just to make people vote for it. It's pretty cynical.
So the half cent will be, it'll generate about $150 million a year, you said?
I got 138, but the mayor's office is 150, so not a big difference, but around that.
And in your reading of the proposal, would that money have to be specific? I mean, so does it specifically get directed to these projects, or how does that work?
The mechanics of it would be this. That money would go, it would be collected, and it would go into a fund that would comply with something called the Improve Act, which is a state legislation. And then those projects would be entered into something called the capital improvement budget that the Metro Council votes on every year. And once they are included in the capital improvement project, then the executive branch, the mayor, and the department would decide which projects it would actually execute on. So the sidewalks, you might want a sidewalk on your street, but if it doesn't meet the requirements of the Improve Act, that can't happen, which means it needs to be adjacent to mass transit.
You might still get a sidewalk on your street, but just not through
the Improve Act, not through a higher sales tax. And I think people are being misled into thinking, well, we're going to have this great sidewalk program. First of all, it's not a great program. 86 miles of additional sidewalk is basically what we're doing right now without raising your sales tax. And second of all, it's confined by what the Improve Act requires.
Dale is in Lebanon with a thought on the transit tax. Dale, good afternoon.
Yeah, that's Daryl.
Oh, pardon me, Daryl. My apologies.
Yeah. I've been saying since the 1980s, I've never heard any council members, no mayors talk about this. The two major chokeholds of traffic in Nashville are 3rd Street and the 2440. Why can't they do away with those bridges or raise them up or lower them? That would get rid of a lot of the traffic problems. $6.8 billion, that would probably do both bridges. I don't understand why they dance around the problem.
Thank you, Daryl, for the call. Emily?
Well, he's bringing up a really great point, which is that the traffic problems in Nashville are, as he pointed out, around the interstate. And that's not part of this plan, okay? Number one. Two, that requires an extensive amount of regional cooperation with the mayor and the General Assembly and the governor's office. And really, if you look at just the press accounts of the Metro Council and the mayor, they spend a lot of time calling the state legislature and the governors pretty nasty names, which does not make for a cooperative environment.
Do you believe that we could manage doing whatever worthwhile project might be discussed in the current budget, within the current budget?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you would have to make choices, okay? That's what budgets are. They're a series of choices. You would have to make those choices, and you would have to set priorities and decide what is most important. And that's usually what makes your people happy, if you're a council person or a mayor. I would suspect that more buses is not going to make anybody particularly happy, and it may make them very unhappy. But
what do you? I'm trying to figure out in the minute or two that we have left, Emily. I'm trying to figure out what the ultimate goal is. I have to feel like that it's more than just increased bus service.
It's really about housing.
Tell me how.
The federal government has implemented a policy to link your zoning and land use laws locally to transportation funding. And it just Google land use and transit, and you'll see articles from across the country. And the reason for this is that the administration firmly believes that if we get rid of zoning law, then we'll have more houses. This is an absolutely nonsense argument, but this is what they believe. And so they're promoting this transit proposal, thinking, all right, well, this will encourage housing, more houses, because this is what the White House said is going to happen. And that's there's no basis for that. So this is really an affordable housing project. And I think a lot of people are being misled by that in addition to the sidewalks.
Real quick question for Freddie for next week. I'll ask it.
Well, you should ask him about the 6.9
I will.
Versus the 3.2.
I will.
And I would ask him, about 84 miles of sidewalks.
Isn't that what we're doing now?
It's what we're doing now, yeah.
Emily, thank you so much for your time. NoTransitTax.com is the website?
NoTransitTax.com. And if I could just ask anybody who's hearing this, when you go to vote on November the 5th, please go all the way down the ballot and vote against the transit tax.
Emily, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
There's Emily Evans. We'll be back in just a moment. Here's Ken Weaver in the news.
Yeah, right now we still got 21st Avenue South closed between Woodlawn Drive and Sweetbriar Avenue. This is on the west end, right there up against Vanderbilt University. It's closed for a crash investigation. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. Right now in Florida, Fort Myers to be precise. That's the wind ahead of Hurricane Milton landfall, which is expected later tonight at the earliest. During a briefing at the White House today, President Biden says his administration's been monitoring the storm for days.
My direction, Administrator Criswell will be in the State Emergency Operations Center in Florida tonight. And Kamala and I are going to keep pressure on the companies so prices stay stable on gasoline, flights, and goods people need.
NBC News reporting Milton has spawned a tornado outbreak with more than 10 touching down in south central Florida. The federal government launching a new Reddit account. It says it's aimed at combating what the White House says is disinformation surrounding aid to those impacted by Hurricane Helene. The White House says it is false to claim that people impacted by these storms will get $750 cash and no more. It also says it is false to claim that money needed for the crisis is being diverted to immigrants. And 5 people are dead after a plane crash on Catalina Island off the coast of Los Angeles. Here's Alex Stone in L.A.
It was a twin-engine small plane, a Beechcraft 95. The plane had just taken off from Catalina Island when it crashed in steep terrain. Only about a mile away from the end of the runway, the L.A. County Sheriff's Department says it was alerted when somebody's phone on board detected the crash automatically and notified 911. Deputies responded to the plane's GPS location and found the 5 on board dead. The FAA and NTSB say they will investigate.
That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and I want to update you on an incredible and exciting piece of news from our friends at Brentwood Hearing Center. Their team of audiology doctors committed to providing patients with the most recent hearing devices and the most recent technology, now have a new Phonak Sphere device to tell you about. It's dedicated to helping patients hear well in situations where there is extensive background noise. I'm excited because I remember back in the day when my grandmother had a hearing device, and the technology just wasn't what it was now. The technology has advanced to the point where there are computer chips within this technology that are dedicated to addressing speech in noise and then bringing that speech forward. The Phonak Sphere will help you out at a dinner party, at a noisy restaurant, or at a sporting event, for example. If you're having difficulty hearing conversations where there's a lot of background noise, make the call that others have made to Brentwood Hearing Center and talk to Ronnie and his team about the Phonak Sphere. Give Brentwood Hearing Center a call at 615-377-0420, 377-0420, or go to BrentwoodHearingCenter.com. That's Brentwood Hearing Center. Better hearing for a better life. Good to meet and speak with Emily Evans, a former Metro councilor who is now a part of the effort to stop the transit tax. You can find out more at notransittax.com. We will get another side of that subject next week when Mayor Freddie O'Connell stops by to talk primarily about his effort to see an increase of a half of a penny on your taxes if you live in Davidson County for the purpose of, well, we just talked about it, sidewalks and improved bus systems. And I'm certain that Freddie will present it in a positive way, and we'll give him an opportunity to do so.
Can you hear that in the background? It's a liberal asking why you hate roads.
Or sidewalks. Or bus people. Liberals freak out when I say that nobody takes a bus because they want to. But
That's totally true.
Tell me I'm wrong. You take a bus because circumstances in your life have become such, and I'm not faulting anybody. I know that sometimes it's through no fault of your own. So a lot of times it's through faults of your own. But if you find yourself in that way, see, this is funny. Something just happened that's very funny to me. If it happens again, you're going to have to go get her. You know how the building is just a big circle?
Right.
And so I was walking Emily out. We were talking after the break. We were discussing the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, amongst other things. I was just getting her take on some of the other issues involving the city of Nashville. And I said, well, if you give Bell just about 30 seconds, he can walk you out. And she said, no, I think I can find my way. And so I came back on the air, and I just saw her pass my window. And she won. Oh, well. It's the little things that amuse us the most.
You are absolutely right, though. People would always choose to have personal control over their ability to come and go as they please versus being tied to a schedule that somebody else imposes on them.
Right. If money was not an impediment, would you still take the bus? And it doesn't mean that you have to learn to drive. If I told you that you could have an Uber anytime you wanted an Uber, would you still take the bus? Of course you wouldn't. No one takes the bus because they want to. Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have a bus system in Nashville, but it does mean that you should balance what these folks are telling you about. Oh, we're going to make the bus cool. We're going to increase ridership. The only way you increase ridership, know this, the only way that I can guarantee that you'll increase ridership on the bus system is to screw up the economy. I guarantee you ridership goes up if enough people's incomes go down. You decrease incomes, you increase ridership. That's the way that works. Bill might have a different take on it. He's in Mount Juliet calling about the transit tax. Hello, Bill.
Good afternoon, Matt. I wasn't born in Nashville, but I lived here for 65 years. And it started with 440 being late by 10 or 15 years. Then 840 comes along, and it was supposed to be completely around Nashville, and they said they cut the northern part out because it was going to take until 2016. If they did that, if they completed that, I am a truck driver, if they completed that and made sure that no trucks came into Nashville unless they had a bill of lading where they were picking up or delivering goods, and keep all of the trucks on the outside, that would relieve a great deal of space. Also, 440, when they redid it, they could have put piers in there, but they don't think ahead. They never have in Nashville. The road system has been doomed since day one.
Can anyone tell me, maybe you can, Bill? I mean, yeah, y'all know that I love my new hometown. I love it, and I love Nashville. I love the state of Tennessee. But I don't pretend that I've been here all my life, right? I've been here since 2021, so I don't pretend to know what I don't know. What's the deal with 440? I mean, genuine. I mean,
hello?
Hey, Bill, you there?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was at. What's the deal with 440?
It's been a joke since the beginning. It was 10 or 15 years delayed, and it was because of the people that were a little more well off over there around Hillsboro Road and all of that, didn't want to and that forth. And it's been but that being said, it's finally complete. But when they did the construction, they could have put piers. There's plenty of room in the middle to put piers where you could go up and take Interstate 40 from the airport all the way to the top, and then the bottom feeds into Nashville, and then dump it out over there on Robertson Road. I've lived in Hermitage for 22 years, and so far there are 2 train cars. I don't know how long that train has been running, but it comes from Lebanon, and there are only 2 train cars. Here's another one. The bicycle.
Is that the one that goes through Mount Juliet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. It starts in Lebanon, and so far they're up all these years, and they're finally up to 2 train cars. And I live in Hermitage, and so far of the 22 years, I am up to the 3rd person that I have seen riding a bicycle. 3 in 22 years. And then you look around in Nashville, and you see these large buses with nobody in them. At least you could be more efficient and use one of those 350 or 450 vans that seats about 17 or 18 people or something. I don't know. It's the next move will not be in Davidson County.
Well, I mean, and I'm a guy. I mean, thank you, Bill, for the call. So, I mean, look at me. So, I'm not a rich person, but I am not poor. I make a decent living. Thank you to all of our wonderful sponsors. Thank you to all of our wonderful listeners. You're the reason that I'm here, and there's only one of us that get paid, and thank you. I thank you sincerely. But I am considering, I've got to figure out where I want to live permanently. I've yet to buy a home. I lived in Goodlettsville for a year at the Grand Old RV Resort Convalescence Home in Bat Meat Market. I miss that place sometimes. I really do.
I miss that drop.
It's a great drop. Now I live in Mount Juliet, and I like Mount Juliet, but we're renting over there. So we have to make a decision what's next. You think I'm considering Davidson County? You got to be kidding yourself.
You're not in Davidson County right now, are you?
No.
No, okay.
Wilson.
Gotcha.
I'm looking at Sumner County. I'm looking hard at Sumner. I'm looking at you, Sumner County. I'm not really even looking at Williamson County. Too many people down there. Way too many people down there. Now, Murray, the right spot in Murray County, that might be an option. But you get my point. Whether it's Williamson or Murray or the amount of money that I would be charged, I would need to make a lot more money to make up for the difference. 3180 says, we're full in Murfreesboro. I've been on 24. I know that you're full in Murfreesboro, and yes, correct. The point is, there are people like me making decisions about their budgets and about their families, and I don't think that this is going to benefit them one single bit. 2531 says, I actually did take the bus by choice. I lived in Nashboro Village and worked downtown on 5th. It was a straight shot. It took almost an hour. That was too long for me, so I ended up driving. I think you just answered, okay, right?
There's an exception to every rule that proves the theory, and he just did it.
Well, right. You decided that it might be an option for you, and then you decided that it was not worth it, and you had other options. If you had to continue to take the bus, you would have put up with the hour-long commute, but you didn't have to, so you got off and went another route. 6707 says, I hope that I'm wrong, but if Ready Freddy loses the tax increase, the true Democrat will come out. Watch parking in Nashville. Reduce what's available and punish the voters. That's how they operate. Get my way or else. Look at northern Robertson County. I don't know about that, but I know this. We're waiting on a couple of other issues that are of great importance to me and to many voters in Davidson County, primarily the I don't know why we're waiting on the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway decision, but I would suggest that decision is being held off on for reasons that have to do with this transit tax.
How long has that been up in the air now?
Since I've been here.
So for 3 years? And
Cooper was promoting it. The council didn't vote on it because, what's his name? The guy that was the Metro councilor in that area, the Geodis Park, and I forget his name. It's like a Sludge or Sledge or something like that. Colby Sludge, is that right? Let's go with that because I don't like the guy. Colby Sludge, who waited and waited and waited before he held a public hearing and then said, we've got to hold a public hearing before we make this decision. It's an absolute no-brainer, except that John Ingram has gotten in the pockets of a lot of these politicians, and they don't want to do it for fear of pissing Ingram off. Despite the fact that they promised the city of Nashville that there would be a speedway there. Now they're trying to go after the charter. And now they're using going after the charter as a reason not to do anything, saying, well, we've got to figure out where we are on this charter issue before we do anything. Shut your mouths. Don't pee on my leg and tell me that it's raining. Brian is next in Gallatin with a thought on the transit tax. We'll put this issue to bed and turn our attention to the presidential election. Hey, Brian.
Hey, look, I'm ready to move on too, but I couldn't stand it anymore. You're such a quick reader of your surroundings. I'm the guy who lives up by Tommy Cunningham. I call you every now and then.
Yes, sir.
And and you're such a quick read of this area that you've nailed it all. I mean, I don't want to call in and disagree with you, but and I won't. But this is NASCAR country, bro. We like our cars. I've been here all my life, 64 years in the metro Nashville area, and lived outside. So come to Robertson County. Consider that. If you're going to move, come up there, bro.
I'm thinking
We'd love
of it.
to have you.
I would love to be there.
Got nice property. Got a $3.8 million farm. It just went on the market just this week, right across from me. Anyway, back to the trend. It's so silly. It's what the guy said earlier. I'm out driving all day. I drive a truck part-time, and all I see in those buses is 2 or 3 people. It's crazy. And like you said, shut your mouths. Stop this and move on to something that we can be proud of that we can do in Nashville instead of bringing this up, this liberal crap that they do.
And here's why, and Brian, thank you. You're very kind. Your words are kind, and I appreciate you saying what you say. But here's the deal. I've been dealing with politicians for the better part of a quarter century. And the politics of this doesn't change. They want more money. They want $150 million of more money so they can continue to spend money on projects they want to spend money on. They're using, quote-unquote, transit to try to sell it to the people of Nashville because they think that's an easy sell. They look at people who aren't paying that much attention and say, hey, are you upset with the transit situation in Nashville? And people think, yeah, I sit in my car and I sit in traffic and I don't like that. And they believe that if you know as little as possible about this deal, you might believe that it might impact you in some form or fashion if you vote for it. I would prefer the politicians just come out and say, we want more money to do these great projects that we want to do and get credit for, and stop lying to the voter about the impact that it's going to have on their daily lives. They want you to pay an additional half-cent sales tax because they don't want to manage the money that you're currently giving them. They want more. And that's the bottom line. 52 after the hour on Super Talk. All right, friends, Matt Murphy here for U.S. Pest. J.K. and Erica Brister are the owners of U.S. Pest. They're great at what they do. They've expanded U.S. Pest by leaps and bounds. That starts with hiring great employees, and they have a fabulous team at U.S. Pest, and they'll be the first to tell you that. And that team can come out to your home and offer you a free pest inspection right now. Now, with that fabulous team will never come high-pressure sales tactics. J.K. and Erica just don't believe in it. They will come and they will inform you as to what's going on in your house. They'll give you that inspection. They'll let you know. And if it's bad, they'll tell you it's bad. If it's good, they'll tell you it's good. The bottom line is this. When you need home protection from pests, we're talking about nasties like spiders and mice and roaches and ladybugs and ants. And yeah, I said ladybugs. They're crazy this time of year. 100% money-back guarantee on their full-service pest control. 100% money-back guarantee on their termite protection. Get to uspest.com to find out more. That's uspest.com or call them today at 590-1260. 590-1260 for our friends at US Pest.
Hear what it sounds like on Florida's west coast with Hurricane Milton approaching. And another deadly rock throwing incident killed a driver. We'll tell you about it at 2 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ken Weaver got the news headlines coming up in mere moments on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy, we're going to turn our attention. Obviously, we're going to give you an update coming up in the 2 o'clock hour on Milton, where Milton is, and on Helene, the aftermath of Helene. Turn our attention to the presidential contest. Boy, oh boy, Kamala Harris, it's only Wednesday. She's not had a good week. She's getting out and about more, offering interviews, and it's not going well because they're asking these difficult questions like, what would you do differently than Joe Biden? I'll give you her response coming up in moments, right after Ken Weaver's newscast, and that's happening right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Two o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. Hurricane Milton growing in size as it edges towards Florida's west coast. This is the wind at Fort Myers right now. Pentagon spokesman Major General Pat Ryder telling ABC News they've already mobilized a number of federal resources to be ready at a moment's notice.
Capabilities they'll be bringing include things like high water vehicles, helicopters to support the transportation of commodities like food and water, search and rescue, and then as well as providing staging areas for logistics support.
Landfall set for sometime between 9 and 11 o'clock tonight. Here in Nashville, we're learning new information about a man Metro Police is looking for. Police have obtained 9 warrants against 39-year-old Walter Daenerys Zuniga of Honduras. He is also known as Daenerys Varela, and police say he's the driver of the red Nissan Sentra responsible for Saturday evening's hit-and-run death of 10-year-old Emily Sanchez Ramirez. She was on an electric scooter with her mother when the car hit them head-on. Her mother was rushed to Vanderbilt University Medical Center with non-life-threatening injuries. Anyone with information about Zuniga's whereabouts is asked to call Crime Stoppers. Police have put a photo of him all over social media. Over a year ago, a woman was killed in Colorado, allegedly by a group of young men who found it fun to throw rocks at passing cars on a rural road. Now a similar case has unfolded in the desert of Southern California, north of Los Angeles. Here's Alex Stone.
A woman driver is dead. The California Highway Patrol says after a rock was thrown by somebody through her car's windshield. When officers arrived around midnight on Tuesday, she was dead in her car. No suspect was found. It comes after a similar occurrence in the area on October 6th when somebody threw a rock through a windshield. The CHP is asking for the public's help to find the person who is throwing the rocks in the rural area in the Antelope Valley.
Boeing is taking back what it called its best and final contract offer, which would have given striking workers a 30% pay raise over 4 years. Boeing machinists who build the 737, 767, and 777 have rejected it because they want a 40% pay raise, and mostly they want their pensions reinstated, something Boeing says it's unable to do. The strike is dragging on as Boeing's factory lines are shut down. The company's facing likely credit downgrades. And a tiny bit of justice for a bear in Alaska. Here's Sherry Preston.
The winner of this year's Fat Bear contest along the Brooks River in Alaska's Katmai National Park is a mama bear named Grazer. She defeated a 1,200-pound behemoth named Chunk for the second year in a row. Some see it as her way of avenging the death of her cub at the paws of Chunk a few months ago. During the contest every year, human fans of the webcam set up along the river vote for whichever bear they think best exemplifies preparedness for winter by the fat they've accumulated over the summer.
That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Men all across Middle Tennessee, men just like you who have noticed a lack of energy, motivation, or drive when it comes to certain activities in their daily lives, they have gone to the Tennessee Men's Clinic and they have felt repaired and refreshed as a result. The Tennessee Men's Clinic has a solution for you, men. If it is a matter of not wanting to go to the gym, you just don't feel the energy to get it done, or if your lack of energy has manifested itself in your bedroom and you feel a lack of intimacy in your relationship as a result. Whatever the cause, whatever the reason, it is time to get it handled. And let me tell you, men, the Tennessee Men's Clinic has a solution that is right for you. I promise you, they've got something that can help. They will put you, they'll get you an initial appointment. They will put you with a qualified urologist, and then they're off to figuring out and diagnosing the source of the problem. Is it a T-level issue? Is it something different? They'll find out, and they'll offer a solution for you at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. So, gentlemen, let's not put this off. There's no reason. There's no reason. 2 locations. One's in Midtown Nashville, been there since 2014. The other in Franklin. Let's get this done. Let's handle this situation. TennesseeMen'sClinic.com or on the phone. Schedule that appointment. 615-208-9090. Tell them Matt Murphy's in you. So it's 208-9090. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello. How's it going? Hope everyone's doing well. We continue, final hour of our day. We'll hand off to Brian Wilson and the drive coming up in, well, about 53 minutes or so. All right, let's do this. We're going to go over where we are in the presidential election. There's a Kamala implosion that is going on right now because Kamala has gotten out of the basement, the Joe Biden basement, and is actually doing some interviews, and they aren't very good. Apparently, Kamala Harris hasn't been doing a lot of friendly interviews because she can't really handle friendly interviews. And let me tell you something. Bill Whitaker with 60 Minutes ought to be applauded because Bill Whitaker, he's not responsible for these stupid edits that they're doing. He engaged in the interview. He demanded answers. And 60 Minutes almost accidentally allowed us to see behind the curtain before they began editing the piece to the point where they took care of business with regard to protecting Kamala. Did 60 Minutes. Those are his bosses. Bill Whitaker, I applaud good journalism when I see it, and I saw good journalism. He quietly asked the question. She didn't answer. He asked it again. She didn't answer. He asked it again. She didn't answer. But I'm talking about how do you pay for it? Well, everybody wants it. I'm talking about how you pay for it. Well, you do it. You just make it happen. Well, how do you get it through Congress? Well, you just talk to them. Well, but they don't want to spend the money. I applaud Bill Whitaker. I don't applaud 60 Minutes or CBS at all because they, as soon as that interview came out, began the process of scrubbing it and editing it. But before we get to that, as Ken Weaver's been reporting in the newsroom throughout the course of the afternoon, throughout the course of his time today, and we'll continue to report for you. The Milton is coming ashore in Florida. A lot of people have interest in it. It's a Category 4 hurricane, sustained winds of 130 miles an hour. It is right now 110 miles west of Fort Myers, Florida, and is expected to make landfall in Sarasota, Florida. As Senator Marco Rubio said yesterday, I believe it was, he told the story on several media outlets, and I forget which one I was watching him on, where he said, several years ago, I was talking with the Florida Emergency Management Agency and individuals from our National Weather Service. And I asked them to lay out to me, as a senator from the state of Florida, the worst case scenario in terms of a hurricane. And what they described to him is what Milton is. It is a powerful Category 4 or 5 storm that would start in the warm waters somewhere in the Gulf of Mexico and would cut to the west coast of Florida. And instead of darting north to the Panhandle or darting south to the Keys, it would keep on that trajectory and it would cut across a swath across the middle of Florida with those ferocious winds, creating storm surge from the west that would ultimately put homes underwater and lives at tremendous risk. It's exactly what's happening. So it is an incredible once in a whatever amount of time storm, and we need to take it incredibly seriously. And I know that a lot of our donation money, a lot of our charitable money has been taxed through Hurricane Helene, but give as you can to those trusted charities and organizations that you believe in, whether it's Samaritan's Purse or the Cajun Navy or whatever it is. Do not expect the government is going to be effective and efficient in times of crisis, ever. Ever. As I mentioned yesterday, we simply do it wrong, y'all. And we've been doing it wrong for a long time. We've been giving more and more authority and more power, and we've leaned more and more on agencies that aren't anywhere close to us when it comes to natural disasters. And it gets to the point where the federal government, and even in some cases the state government, I'm not casting aspersions against TEMA, but I'm suggesting more broadly, in some cases, they start picking winners and losers depending on the size and scope of the storm. I mean, my goodness. If an EF0 tornado hits your home and destroys your home, it is your Katrina. It is your biggest disaster ever. And the damage on your property is 100%. Yet the feds don't look at it that way. So I don't rely on these folks, and I think we need to take a strong look about keeping our money here at home and not depending on a blank check from the federal government in these times of crisis, and deregulate to the point where we allow neighbors to help neighbors. Is that an imperfect world? Of course it is. We live in an imperfect world, but it's a hell of a lot better than sitting around on our thumbs waiting on the federal government to come and help, because they oftentimes never show up. Kamala Harris is in a little bit of a pickle. I don't know if you've heard, but she's running for president of the United States of America, despite the fact that she's not received one vote in a political primary toward that end. But she was anointed as the appointed one after it was obvious that Joe Biden did not have the ability to continue to run. Well, Kamala Harris started going after Ron DeSantis yesterday for having the audacity of not calling her back, despite the fact that she doesn't really have anything to do with this, and we covered that ground yesterday. But they must have internal polling that indicates that she's woefully behind Donald Trump. And by the way, any sort of tie or any near tie, whatever poll you're looking at, that is a win for Donald Trump. Donald Trump was behind Hillary Clinton by 8 to 9 points in the waning days of the 2016 election, and he won that election. Donald Trump was behind Joe Biden, according to the polls, by 7 or 8 points going into the 2020 election, and we're told that Joe Biden won that election. That's what we're told, right? Now we have these polls that have them neck and neck tied. That seems to me to be a Trump victory. And with 27 days to go before we culminate all of this, we're seeing in real time how leaders react to moments of crisis. Is it just me, or is it unseemly that while we are still looking for bodies in North Carolina, while we are still picking up debris and surveying damage and recovering from Hurricane Helene, while we wait and anticipate Milton reaching landfall in Florida, Kamala Harris is yucking it up on The View. She's sitting down with what I am sure was a hardball interview with Howard Stern. Several of you asked me about my analysis of Stern. From the first hour, Howard had this, when Howard Stern was making his name and what ultimately earned him the $100 million contract from SiriusXM were things like he would bring in prostitutes and strippers, and he would bring them into his studio, and he would line them up on their hands and knees without any underpants on, facing away from him, and he would have members of his crew throw pieces of ham and bologna at their bottoms to see if they could get them to stick. Kamala Harris went on that show yesterday.
100% true story.
That is an absolute true story. That was a favored segment of the Howard Stern show. This is the guy that she believes will deliver her the White House. And did you hear what he said? I don't have it pulled up. Maybe you can find it real quick, Bell, and we can play it. Did you hear yesterday? Stern was trying to pay her a compliment. I saw this clip last night late where he was like, I'm voting for you. Howard gets in like this. He likes to seem very warm. And so he gets very, very, can I talk to you for just a moment, Kamala? I'm voting for you. I'm your guy. But I would vote for that wall over Donald Trump.
The guy that I used to have on my show all the time.
So he was trying to pay Kamala Harris a compliment, and he said, I would vote for that wall. Well, that's what you're voting for, buddy. You're voting for an inanimate object.
Yes. That has no thought process.
Right. So what does it say? I would vote for a stick over Donald Trump. Oh, by the way, I'm voting for you. Congratulations.
You could be in a coma and I would still vote for you.
You're as smart as a stick. Congratulations, Kamala. And then this. So Kamala Harris was on The View. And she was asked this hardball question about what she would do differently than Joe.
Well, if anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Well,
so not anything comes to mind. And as I said yesterday, and this just boiled my blood, I mean, these are easy questions with easy answers, guys. If anything, what would you do? I mean, just listen to the question again.
If anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
Well, obviously, Sonny, or whatever your name is, if you look, for example, at our decision to remove the troops from Afghanistan and draw down that conflict. We agreed with the previous administration that it was important to do that. But hindsight is 20/20 in this regard, and looking at the aftermath of that and recognizing that 13 of our service members lost their lives as a function of that withdrawal. Obviously, if we could have done it differently, if I had it to do over again, or if I could go back and do it differently, I would, to try to save those lives. That just comes to mind when you ask me if there's anything that I look back on with regret. I look back on that moment with regret. Did our people do everything in their power to save lives? Of course. You can flower it up any way you want. That's an answer, though. Instead, she goes, no, nothing.
Which just sounds tone deaf as all get out.
I mean, nothing on the issue of inflation, nothing on the issue of the immigration problems that we see that exist, nothing on the issue of energy, nothing on the,
No, Orange Man bad.
No, I'm not Donald Trump, so. So she got a second crack at it. So she's on The View. Her 3 big interviews yesterday were The View, Howard Stern, and Stephen Colbert. I mean, I'm talking hard stuff. And Stephen Colbert gave her a second crack. Did nobody go to her and say, hey, if you're going to do these interviews, these softies might actually ask you what you're going to do different, because you're running the Focus Forward, Turn the Page campaign. As Stephen Miller said last night, and I love Stephen Miller, on I think it was on Jesse Waters, you spent millions of dollars and you spent countless hours in focus groups coming up with this stupid turn the page nonsense. If you turn the page, there needs to be something differently written on the next page. And obviously people are going to ask you about that. Stephen Colbert, Late Show, or whatever they're calling it, from last evening.
You are a member of the President administration. Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I know.
And so that would be one change in terms of... But also,
okay, so this is a laugh line that she has tried to push in the past. And she wanted to laugh there, didn't get it, and Colbert helped her out by going, I've noticed. Well, yeah, she's not old. She's not or old as Joe. Not many are. But she thinks that's such a brilliant little cute answer. Kamala Harris is the epitome of somebody that thinks they're so smart and they're not. She thinks she's so cute and she's not. Just look at the number of times they've stopped her from doing it now, that she'll just laugh and laugh at her own jokes. And nobody else is laughing.
You just fall out of a coconut tree?
You just fall out of a coconut tree? So funny. Well, what would you? Well, obviously, I'm not Joe Biden. What? But then she went on.
I think it's important to say with 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump. And so when we think about the significance of what this next generation of leadership looks like, were I to be elected president, it is about, frankly, I love the American people, and I believe in our country. I love that it is our character and nature to be an ambitious people. We have aspirations, we have dreams, we have incredible work ethic, and
I have puke in my mouth.
Can I get some ranch dressing to go with that word salad?
What is she talking about? This is not a hard question that she was asked. What will you do differently than the current administration? We'll get to the end of the answer in a moment. It's 22 after the hour as we continue breaking this down. It is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk. If you've been over to the Dr. Gill Center for back, neck, and chronic pain relief like I have, you start calling them by their initials. I call him Dr. G. Dr. Gill is Dr. G. There's Dr. Dominic. He's Dr. D. Dr. V. I don't even know Dr. V's name. He's just Dr. V. And Dr. Wendy. She's always been Dr. Wendy to me. It's a team approach at the Dr. Gill Center for back, neck, and chronic pain relief, meaning they want to make sure that they can assist the maximum amount of people possible at their facility, but they do it the Dr. Gill way. And he's been doing it for a long time. They do it the right way. At the Dr. Gill Center, they can treat back pain, neck pain, knee pain, hip pain, elbow pain, all treated with no surgery, no downtime. And you can stop with the needles to block pain. You can stop with popping the pills. So many people have been to the Dr. Gill Center for chiropractic care, but they also deal in soft tissue issues. They have a Class 5 laser system, a red light therapy system, and their spinal decompression that Dr. Gill brought to Middle Tennessee. Let's get with the OG. Let's get with Dr. G. Dr. Gill. 615-882-4838. 882-4838, the Dr. Gill Center for back, neck, and chronic pain relief.
Hurricane Milton is churning up tornadoes ahead of making landfall, and deer hunters in Tennessee being called to action to feed Hurricane Helene victims and recovery crews. We'll have these stories and more at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I love hearing that. Venison, baby. Venison for everybody. Deer meat for everybody. 26 after the hour, there's Ken Weaver in the newsroom. My name is Matt Murphy. I'm over in the studio. Between the two of us, behind several panes of bulletproof glass, is Bell K, Headless Bell we call him, controlling the experience, answering your telephone calls, screening your calls, making sure that everything that comes out of our speaker sounds as good as humanly possible. And we thank him. So
glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here too. Otherwise, I don't know what we would do. I think Ken would be running the board. I think it wouldn't be me.
Which one is on?
Hello, check.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now? Hello,
check.
Checkity check. Tornadoes, huh? I'm not asking you about it till after the news. I don't want to break up the tease there. That's an official. What'd you call that yesterday? A TSL moment, right?
That's a time spent listening moment right there, Brother Murphy.
I love that. So Kamala Harris yesterday made the rounds. I mean, she was very serious-minded. She was on The View. It just got better. She was on Howard Stern. And then Stephen Colbert later on in the evening. What would the major differences be between you and Joe Biden in your administration? This is what he asked. Listen to this and tell me how long it takes you to be completely and utterly insulted. I mean, I do not get surprised by much. But she is like a doofus Barack Obama. I heard Newt Gingrich last night. I was watching last night. I think it was Hannity. They were on in the background. I was doing some other things. And Newt Gingrich came on. And Newt, I don't know why it made me giggle like it did. Newt referred to her as a doofus. He said, this woman is the first doofus ever to be nominated by her political party for the presidency of the United States of America in my lifetime. Absolute doofus. DOOFUS.
Not untrue.
It is not untrue. She's like a doofus Barack. Barack Obama never said anything, but you always felt like he knew what he was saying. Does that make sense?
It had like an impact. Even if it wasn't of substance, you still sort of felt like, wow, he's communicating to me.
I mean, ask me a question about anything, and I'll try to give you my best, Barack. Just about anything, just a question about anything on your mind, Bill.
Why are gas prices going up so much?
Well, that's a very good question. Obviously, there's a lot of things, not just here at home, but globally, that impact the price of gasoline at the pump. And you have to break that down to understand what you're paying. And we have to figure out how to make that better for the lives of families like yours. So I'm glad you asked the question. And then he'll go through a 45-minute answer. And you feel like, boy, oh, boy, this guy really knows his I haven't listened to a word that he said because he put me to sleep, but this guy really knows what he's talking about. And then you've got doofus Barack.
You are a member of the President administration. Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I know.
And so that would be one change in terms of. Yes. But also, I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump. And so when we think about the significance of what this next generation of leadership looks like, were I to be elected president, it is about.
Okay, so I just want to break this down, and I know I've got to go to news, but. So we need to think about the significance of what the next generation of leadership looks like. So that's what she's asking us to do, right? She's asking us to think about the significance of what this next generation would look like, okay? Okay, all right, hold on. Here's
and so when we think about the significance of what this next generation of leadership looks like, were I to be elected president, it is about, frankly,
She wants to be frank with everybody. She wants to be real frank, real upfront and clear as we think about the significance of what the next generation of leadership looks like. She wants to be real clear. Let's go.
I love the American people, and
Oh, she loves the American people. Okay. So as we think about the next generation, let's be real frank, she loves the American people.
Believe in our country. I I love that it is our character and nature to be an ambitious people.
Oh, we're an ambitious people. Isn't that nice of her to note that, Ken? We're an ambitious people. Oh, but there's more.
You know, we have aspirations.
We have aspirations. I get aspirated every time I see her on TV. I feel like I can't breathe.
We have dreams.
We have dreams. I dream of a day where I don't see this woman on my television anymore.
We have incredible work ethic.
Do we now? Like Joe, up and at 'em at 10:30, off to bed by 2.
And I just believe that we can create and build upon the success we've achieved in a way that we continue to grow opportunity and in that way grow the strength of our nation. So, for example, my economic policies, I think of it and I've named it as creating an opportunity economy.
Would you have done some?
Okay, that and then they go back to the other question. Is everybody clear on that? Everybody real crystal clear on that? All right, now that we're clear on that, let's get to the news. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast in 5 minutes. Here's what it sounds like in Fort Myers ahead of Hurricane Milton making landfall tonight. Milton, currently a Cat 4 storm, expected to make landfall between 9 and 11 tonight. Meteorologist Elise Smith with ABC TV affiliate KTRK says flooding will be rampant in the west and east coast of Florida.
It's going to dump that heavy torrential rain across the center part of the state, so the flood risk even extends away from the coast. We're talking from Tampa through Orlando all the way to Daytona Beach, an extreme flash flood risk where we could see easily 5 inches to a foot of rain fall in less than 12 hours.
Yeah, communities in central, even the east coast of Florida, experiencing heavy rains and reports of tornadoes. At least 10 touchdowns so far this morning and afternoon. Right now in Tennessee, deer hunters are being asked to help out victims of Helene in East Tennessee. The Tennessee Wildlife Federation says food banks and shelters are in desperate need of meat protein they can provide to food trucks, ready to cook and serve the families in need and the servicemen and women helping with the recovery efforts. The Federation's Hunters for the Hungry has provided the neediest of Tennessee families for more than 25 years and is ready to help hurricane victims. You can find a full list of Hunters for the Hungry processors at tnwf.org/processors. And 5 people are dead after a plane crashed just after taking off from an airport in Catalina Island off the coast of Los Angeles. Alex Stone is there, tells us technology automatically alerted rescuers to the crash.
Around Southern California, there have been a number of rescues recently where somebody's phone, often an iPhone, automatically calls for help after a car crash. In this case, it was a plane crash. The LA County Sheriff's Department got a call automatically made by somebody's phone on board the small twin-engine plane, alerting they had been in a crash and the GPS coordinates. When deputies arrived, they found the plane had gone down and all 5 on board were dead. The FAA and NTSB will investigate.
That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
All right, friends, so it's October, and the Glock Store's got a great October promotion that I love telling you about. It's no surprise that I'm talking about my friends at the Glock Store. It seems like I'm doing that quite often, and they're great at what they do, which is provide you with your Second Amendment rights in physical form, right, through Glocks and other handguns, long guns, and the like. And there's another reason, because all October they're having their own version of what we would call a spook house or a haunted house. They're calling it a shoot house. Get it? Spook house, shoot house. And it's a lot of fun. So this is what it is. And by the way, I've seen photos. I've not been by, and I've got to get by there. You know what? I might go lay down a time on my own time. But it's pretty cool because, they've got spooky music going and they got the cobwebs going. You see the spiders in there, and they've got the targets in the shooting rooms. And you might win a $1,000 custom Glock for being the best shot of the month. And this Glock, if it's the one that I saw, I think Dan sent me a picture of it. It is cool. It's customized for October. It only costs $30 to run the course, and that includes 20 rounds of ammunition. And to make it a level playing field, everybody's going to use the same model Glock handgun, which is also included in the price of your entry. And you go through the course, and if you are the best time over the course of 1 month, of the month of October, you win a $1,000 customized Glock. How about that? It's kind of a Halloween gift to you from the Glock store. Go to glockstore.com or stop by. By the way, open 7 o'clock on Fridays to 7 o'clock on Saturdays for this month in anticipation of the surge of folks that want to get involved in this event. Minutes away from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere. It's the one and only Glock store. Did you know that 90% of men who go to prison as a criminal will get out of prison? How do they come out of prison? Do they come out of prison as criminals? Do they come out with a revitalization about their lives? Do they want to become productive members of society? There are ways to help them understand the error of their ways. There are ways to rehabilitate them. And I don't believe that the prison system has those abilities, but I do believe in men of valor because I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes. Men of valor understands that in order to set captives free from their own troubles and trials and tribulations and the things that they do to others, the way to make a community a better safe is to do just that, and you do that through the grace of God. Men of valor needs job partners. They need Bible study teachers. They need mentors to disciple men in their everyday lives and to disciple men within the prison system. Is that you? Are you able to wrap your head around the idea of bringing men out of prison in a way that is going to be better for society, is going to better us all? It's going to save us a lot of money on the back end, too. But that's not why we do things. We do things because we want to create a better society, a better world for our children and our grandchildren through the power of God. Go to movministry.com. That's movministry.com to find out more. Thank you. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm swiftly running out of time. Man, oh man, so much to get to. So Kamala Harris yesterday, she is a tour de force, boy, when it comes to word salads, and that is one of her better word salads. As she presented herself before Stephen Colbert, that hard-hitting Stephen Colbert. So she doesn't know her stump speech. Now, you've seen this story by now, where she is unable to, she got stuck. Her teleprompter got stuck, and it was obvious. She was on the stump somewhere 2 days ago campaigning. It was several days ago because she said, we have 32 days. 32 days. That's right. We've got 32 days. And she just kept looking at the teleprompter, waiting for the teleprompter to move. Now, understand, folks, I don't expect that she doesn't need, I'm trying to give the extreme benefit of the doubt. Any learned person by now would know your speech. She gives that speech 3 times a day, every day. She's not going off the cuff. She's not riffing for 2 hours plus like Donald J. Trump does on a nightly basis about the issues of the day. She is going off this structured speech that she reads off the teleprompter every day, 3 times a day, or 2 times a day, or at least once a day. How is it that she can't remember the open of this speech? Where she just, 32 days, 32, 32 days. And that's the start of her week. Then this big 60 Minutes interview, that was supposed to be the big hardball. And Bill Whitaker did actually a pretty good job. Bill Whitaker did such a good job that CBS has decided to edit that speech or that interview because they didn't like the way that it was being received because Kamala wasn't making any sense in the course of the interview. And instead of having her for the full hour, apparently that wasn't in the cards. They had to have Tim Walz on too. Bill Whitaker, who still takes his job seriously, who still understands the importance of the truth, one of the few left in mainstream media, apparently, did his job. And then the CBS News editorial department has decided to clean it up. Here's Whitaker doing his job with Tim Walz the other night on 60 Minutes.
In your debate with J.D. Vance, you said, I'm a knucklehead at times. And I think you were referring to the time that you said that you were in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square unrest when you were not.
Yeah.
Is that kind of misrepresentation, isn't that more than just being a knucklehead?
I think folks know who I am, and I think they know the difference between someone expressing emotion, telling a story, getting a date wrong rather than a pathological liar like Donald Trump.
But I think it comes down to the question of whether you can be trusted to tell the truth.
Yeah, well, I can. I think I can. I will own up to being a knucklehead at times, but the folks closest to me know that I keep my word.
In your debate with J.D.
And that was looping back around to the beginning of the interview. And that, even his answer was edited on a couple of occasions. That doesn't mean that he said, I've been a knucklehead at times, but that doesn't mean that I'm pathological. I'm a pathological liar like Donald Trump. Words mean things, at least on our show. They still mean things. What does pathological mean? I mean, what is a lie? A lie is saying something that you know not to be true at the time that you say it. That is my definition of a lie. I think it's pretty close to your, just look it up in your Funkin' Wagnalls, okay? I think it's pretty close. A lie is saying or writing or presenting something that you know not to be true at the time that you say it. What does that mean? That means a mistake is not a lie. A mistake is just that, a mistake. If I tell you something that I believe to be true and it turns out not to be true, I've made an error. I have misspoken. That is a mistake. A lie is saying something you... Tim Walz has repeatedly lied about his military service. Tim Walz has repeatedly lied about his presence at Tiananmen Square during the uprising in the late 1980s. Tim Walz has repeatedly lied about his DUI arrest. He eventually had to come clean while he was running for governor of the state of Minnesota. Pathological means, and I looked this up for the purposes of our discussion, pathological means extreme in a way that is not normal or that shows an illness or mental problem. He is a pathological liar. Tim Walz fits that definition. He is a pathological liar. The reason that he doesn't answer the question from Bill Whitaker is that there is no way to answer it. You decided to lie about your presence at Tiananmen Square because it made you feel good, because it made a good story, because it connected you with the audience that you were talking to. It elevated you in standing before the audience that you were speaking to. It doesn't make it any less of a lie. It's not misspeaking. You knew that you weren't there. You've always known that you weren't there. Why did you say it? You didn't misremember. Nothing will get me more worked up than dealing with these types of lies.
Can you just imagine? I mean, I was there. I was standing in front of a row of tanks.
Right. I had a bag in my right hand.
I was in a white shirt.
I was going home for the day, and I saw these tanks, and I was trying to get across the street, and then the tank wouldn't let me go. And I was like, oh, I was going to go this way, and then, oh, I was going to go this way. I was skinnier then.
It's just so ridiculous. That's like you going, you know what? I was in Berlin when the wall fell.
Right. I listened. I was there in the crowd when Ronald Freudian slip. Ronald Reagan said, tear down the wall. I was in the crowd. That's like me saying that. Well, you weren't. You were there 4 months later. Oh, well, I just misremembered. And in the meantime, there's this gem, too, that we need to remember.
Recent crackdown on asylum seekers. And that crackdown produced an almost immediate and dramatic decrease in the number of border crossings. If that's the right answer now, why didn't your administration take those steps in 2021?
The first bill we proposed to Congress was to fix our broken immigration system.
By the way, that's not true unless the first bill... What is she talking about? They signed a series of executive orders, Joe Biden did, on his first day that made it easier for individuals to get into this country. It's why they saw the spike. It's why Bill Whitaker's asking her the question. And by the way, 60 Minutes, I won't give them credit, but I will give Whitaker credit. He's going to press her on this, asking her repeatedly why she waited 3 years to take action to curb illegal crossings. And she said nothing.
Knowing that if you want to actually fix it, we need Congress to act. It was not taken up. Fast forward to a moment when...
By the way, the bill she's referencing, which was not on the first day in office, that bill would have given an 8-year moratorium and path to amnesty to millions of illegal aliens who are currently in this country. That bill in no way, I mean, I don't know what bill she's talking about, but the bill that they introduced the first year that Joe Biden was president would have given amnesty to 8 million illegal aliens.
A bipartisan group of members of the United States Senate, including one of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, got together, came up with a border security bill. Well, guess what happened? Donald Trump got word that this bill...
None of this that she's saying right now answers the question. Why did you wait for so long? Why could you not have rolled back those executive actions?
Was afoot and could be passed. And he wants to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. So he told his buddies in Congress.
Who created the problem? If I agree with your premise, and I do not, that this would have solved the problem. It would have amnestized these individuals. It would have permanently settled these individuals in our communities. The people like the Haitians that are getting legal status and legal residency, it would have permanently settled those individuals into these communities like Springfield, like Sylacauga, Alabama, like Coleman, Alabama. But even if I grant you the premise that Donald Trump wants to run on a problem, whose problem was it? Because it wasn't a problem when Donald Trump was president of the United States.
For 3 years, that administration told us from mouthpieces like Mayorkas and Karine Jean-Pierre, the border is secure and there is no border crisis. The border is secure.
And Kamala.
And then suddenly, 3 years later, oh, we have this massive problem at the border and Donald Trump won't let us solve it. Then why have you told us for 3 years that the border is secure and there's no crisis?
Because they love to have it both ways, don't they? It's just it is amazing to me. It's not been a very good week for Kamala. Question is, and I'll just let you chew on this for a while, what does Kamala Harris believe in? We're gonna study this tomorrow as we cover Milton, as we cover the aftermath of Helene. Because I can only think of one thing. Serious question. What does she truly believe in? What can she tell the American people that she believes in? The only thing I can think of is that she believes in abortion until birth. She's never wavered on that position. Other than that, strong on crime, weak on crime, cashless bail, throw them in jail, fracking, no fracking. Nobody knows where she is. It depends on the group that she's talking to at any given moment. It's 52 after the hour. You're listening to Super Talk.